started with a prank. A swatting incident at Harvard University led to 4 Black students, best and the brightest. Happens to all of us. Held at gunpoint by campus police. It all resulted from a hoax 911 call. Early Monday morning, 4 Harvard University students were sleeping in their undergraduate suite, trying to get as much rest as possible before the new school week began. But at around 4 a.m., they were awoken by noises of banging on their suite door, commands for them to open it. They did, which is when they were confronted by 5 Harvard University police officers in riot gear, assault rifles in hand. They were then instructed by the officers to raise their hands, exit through their rooms, and enter a nearby suite, all while officers pointed assault rifles directly in their faces. That, according to the Harvard Crimson newspaper. The victims of the hoax? Harvard seniors, Jerry Cotton, Yasmin and Dunlap, David G. Madzivanyika, and Alexandra Renee. An officer later explained to the students that a false report was filed to the Harvard University Police Department. It led to them believing there was a threat in the building, hence the riot gear and assault rifles. According to the Harvard Crimson, Cotton and Renee both received a call from the police a half an hour before the raid, but they understandably did not answer since they were in the middle of a good REM sleep. The Harvard University police spokesperson, Stephen Catalano, said this in an interview. Threatening violence against occupants. The officers searched the Levitt House suite with negative results for an individual with a firearm or any persons acting in a suspicious manner. He said that to explain why Harvard University police were dispatched to the building. Again, this was a hoax. This was a false report. Well, there's more. We were all extremely scared. This is the students, particularly because my roommates and I are Black students, said Jerry Cotton, who have been bombarded our whole lives with stories and images portraying how situations such as this ended up terribly. We felt our lives were in danger. We are traumatized, Cotton said. She was disappointed also by the lack of university-wide response or acknowledgement. Being accosted in your place of residence warrants a university-wide response, warrants the president's attention, warrants the dean of students' attention, warrants an email at the very least. Reportedly, the FBI is working with Harvard police to find the suspect in this latest swatting hoax. There is so much, Yasmin, to unpack here. They were in danger. Their lives were in danger, okay? Anytime police are holding assault rifles in the face of Black people, it's a heightened, and it should be a heightened awareness to the person who's on the other end of it. Your reaction to the university president's statement, because I think Ms. Cotton's right. I don't know why he wouldn't step before the cameras and command the attention of all of Harvard about this incident.
Yeah, I would think that he would care about the reputation of the university. And obviously, it's a very reputable university in the United States. It's the oldest university in the United States, and it has a lot to live up to. As far as giving them the benefit of the doubt, as far as catching the person who did the swatting and taking this very seriously, I'm not a criminal investigator or anything like that, but I would imagine it's very difficult to do that. But that said, we have seen incidents of just simple 911 calls that have gone sideways, not even swatting, just regular 911 calls that have gone awry because the dispatcher or the cop who took the call at their word, took the caller at their word in situations where they probably could have asked a few more questions. In this case, they tried to call the girls before they swatted them, but they were asleep because it was the middle of the night. Incidents like this one are obviously very disruptive and traumatizing for the victims, but they're also incredibly costly, right? It's a lot of resources and a lot of money. So you would think you can't expect them to care about, trauma to victims, because we know that they don't actually care about things like that, but they do care about money. And you would think that that would be more of an instigator as far as them getting to the bottom of things like this.
Yeah, it's incredibly disturbing. And I'm not even sure, listen, I'm not a trained police officer, but I don't know if there's a real threat if I'd be knocking I don't know if I'd be knocking. I'm glad they did in this case, and that the students were aroused enough and awake enough. Okay, try waking me up at 4 a.m. and who knows what, I might just get up swinging. Okay, you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. So this could have been a whole lot worse, and the response to it, great. The FBI is involved. Harvard, what are you going to do about this? And another reason I think that the president should have stood before cameras, every student everywhere should have been within earshot somehow, and let them know that this will be the first and the last, because when we get you, there won't be another. You're done. Okay, whoever did this, you're done. An overreaction, or I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think it's a very serious thing. And something like swatting, it can ruin lives. It can really, really be very disruptive to people's lives, to the victims. I mean, just the trauma of it alone, having a SWAT team show up to your door, especially in the middle of the night, you're discombobulated, you don't know what's going on. It's very, very scary. And anything can happen. And in those very high stress situations, things can happen very badly in a deadly way sometimes, unfortunately. And I hate that this had to happen on the Harvard campus. You know, it's always disappointing whenever really educated people are so stupid and so ignorant. But, you know, even with an Ivy League education, sometimes, you know, you can't erase the way that you've been raised. So yeah. I don't know who did the swatting. I don't know what the motive was behind it, but I mean, one can imagine.
One can imagine.
One can speculate.
Yes, we can. Okay. It's an educated guess. I think they call it a hypothesis. Okay.
That is.
Right? Is that right? Thank you, Yasmin. Yeah. But I do think that it's important that Miss Cotton, very smart Harvard student, reminded, at least that's how I took it, about what they face every day. Mm-hmm. Black and brown people, not just students. And I think it was important as she spoke out about what happened to her and her classmates, that we're already up against so much. And it makes me wonder more about if Harvard is a welcoming enough, and if they even realize what it takes in this case to make sure Black students, all students, but Black and brown students, feel and are actually safe.
Yeah, and whenever we think about Ivy League education, there's so much stigma that comes with it, as far as people paying to get their children admitted into it, and all kinds of affirmative action, pushback that you get specifically with Ivy Leagues, because they are very elitist, they are very exclusionary, and that's what makes them so elite in a lot of ways and so expensive, right? It takes a lot of work for people who are not, you know, the children of senators or whoever to get into these Ivy League schools, way more than even just, you know, having a high GPA and being involved in all these extracurriculars. You really have to kind of get lucky to a certain extent, and also just break every barrier that's thrown at you. And once you get there, that's such an accomplishment, such an achievement. You really did earn it. And then these kids, they're living on campus. You don't want them to feel unsafe or unwelcome there. And if these universities and these, you know, these Ivy League universities don't do something about that culture, I think they're going to suffer. They're going to see drops in enrollment. And I think long term, they're going to feel the negative impacts of that.
Yeah, we haven't even discussed where Harvard is located. Okay, it's not the easiest city. You know, I once heard a basketball player who was drafted there say, I'm not going there. An NBA guy, maybe somebody will remind me who that was, but it probably wasn't the only one. Okay. I think Bill Russell could talk about, he could have talked about and did eloquently the experiences in the city. So there's so much that's piling up, right? Piling up on top of everything else. And then, oh yeah, you are supposedly amongst the best and the brightest. And you have competed to get there, and you have to compete to stay there and be recognized and appreciated there, right? And now you have to put up with this. You know, I don't want to be graded on a curve, but I don't know how you could perform after that and actually feeling, because what would have went through my mind, Yasmin, is Breonna Taylor and so many other names.
Yeah, and I think that's completely reasonable, because you can be someone who's literally sleeping in your bed, and then something really, really deadly and horrible can happen to you when you haven't done anything. It wouldn't even be a thing that you think that you're you're waiting for. You haven't done anything that you're guilty of. Why would you be expecting any kind of consequence or any kind of negative activity like that? And I think whenever things like this happen, I always tend to believe that these people are uneducated or they're ignorant or whatever. And so whenever these things happen on college campuses, especially, I'm just like, oh, I feel like you should have known better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should know better. What's a hoax to you could be deadly to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not your experience and you're unaware of what's going on in the world around you, how, I don't know, privilege, then you may not realize that, but it's time to get real.